Hey, Ed again, get with the Pilgrim. One thing I committed to doing when I restarted this channel after a couple of years of it being pretty quiet was to actually finish the videos, the vlogs, if you will, of my 2022 Camino Frances journey. So here are days 7, 8, and 9 all put together with more on the way coming soon. Enjoy. So like any other day, it starts pretty early heading out from Los Arcos at about 6:45. What's really interesting is I brought a headlamp and really chose not to use it because, as you'll see, a lot of us leave it around the same time in the morning, and it's pretty well lit shortly there into the day. So we're heading out of Los Arcos. I'm still walking with Dimitri at this point. Pretty good walking mate. You know, we kind of change paths over the course of the walk, and then we get to our first breakfast here in the Navarra region and run into Camino Jim. As you've heard me mention about him several times, he becomes pretty tight as we go further. Typical breakfast, you know, an Aquarius or a cafe con leche and a Napolitano. And then off we go on the rest of our day. There was these really cool rock formations that we saw as we continued on. A lot of people placing these monuments, if you will. And then, of course, adding their little tokens to some of the trees along the way from various countries. It was very colorful, something really to behold. Vineyards everywhere. You know, we are in wine country and a lot of other crops as well, but we spent many time walking through many vineyards. And what's really cool is these little oasis bodegas or little stops along the way to get a drink or take a little break or have a bite if you need to get that extra energy, or to check your shoes, you know, any hot spots. Motorcycle riding is huge. There's lots of twists and turns. And of course, I'm a fan, so it was really cool to see these guys and get a wave and a little along the way. This is one spot where I stopped, and this was one of those days that I talked about where I had switched up socks that I bought in Decathlon. Wish I didn't, because it was the only time that I got a single blister from walking with those 100% merino wool socks. And I should have stuck with just my smart wool. Note to self. This was a neat little scene, you know, happening upon a number of school children outside enjoying the day, singing some traditional songs. It was really nice to see. You can't beat the views on the Camino really anywhere that you stop and take a look from. And that's a good point too, is you're walking and you always want to take a stop and look behind you, just because sometimes you miss some really great footage or the sun rising behind you. And then we make it to Rioja, which is a wonderful wine region. I have since bought many a bottle of wine from that region here back home. One of my favorites, and it was a wonderful region to walk through. Approaching Logroño, which is a very big and cosmopolitan town, you know, considering some of the other ones that you walk through. I stayed in the municipal albergue in this one, and I was with, at this point, Jim and a few other fellows. Logroño, again, is a huge city center that has great bars and tapas and you know, place to sit and relax. And of course, back at the Camino or the municipal albergue is a good time to wash your clothes, secure your bed, and settle in for the night. And this was pretty much the end of day 7. Leaving the Logroño just prior to 7 a.m. on day 8. Some cool statues of pilgrims as you leave the town. Most times left and it wasn't quite light out, but it didn't take long, as I mentioned, into the walk. This was really neat, very picturesque. There's a nice little man-made lake that I stopped and took a few photos and grabbed a bit of footage. The sun came up, which gave a nice kind of backdrop to it as well. Very quiet morning, very still, which is super peaceful and a great way to start the day. And again, you'll see these little areas along the way where people have left little tokens, little mementos. This one was filled with crosses people put together. Here's mine. Just 2 sticks that I had fashioned together to add my piece there. And then off I went. You'll find in a lot of cases, you'll see people that start off together in the morning but spread out. It gives you a good time to, walk on your own and have your own thoughts and, have some time to yourself. In which I took this Ventosa Camino alternative route, which was really neat because they had this art installation along the way, which is right up my alley. Being a photographer and a bit of a creative, it was nice to see this little alternate route incorporate some wonderful paintings and photos from local artists. And it was a nice little thing to spot, in another way of making my way around the Camino. More vineyards, as I said. We're in Rioja now, so they're pretty plentiful in this region. Yeah. And then we come into the beautiful little town of Najera, which was quite nice, separated by a river. I think this is one of the spots where I didn't stay in a municipal albergue, but took up in a hostel or perhaps even a hotel for that night, just to kind of get, a week down and just get my clothes washed and have a nice little private space to myself and a shower. And then leaving Najera again about 7 a.m. This was a great little spot. It's where the Camino actually goes under a structure. There's a few of these along the way where the path itself goes through buildings, which I thought was really interesting. And I believe this was the first time I encountered some rain. So 8 days in, not too bad in terms of, getting a little wet, and it wasn't even that terrible. The shoes held up and they dried really quickly at my next stop for the night. And I had a cover for my backpack and a rain jacket that I brought with me. So all was good. Getting a little wet is part of it. You have to expect that, especially in Galicia towards the end. Again, spectacular views, long paths that just wind out in front of you. You don't look at it as though, I have all that to walk. It just looks amazing to know that you're going to cover that kind of distance. This was an interesting little town. We stopped and ate at a golf course, but this golf course, they built this town around it, expecting people to come and buy houses and live there, but it was essentially a vacant town. There was nobody really. Well, maybe there was a couple, but not a lot of people inhabiting these homes. And yeah, like I said, the paths just stretch on for miles and miles. And then as we end day 9, this was a hostel. I remember that. And I had pretty muddy shoes and wanted to get them cleaned up and dried up, and met with a bunch of friends. It was pretty much the end of day 9 in Santo Domingo de Pasado. I probably butchered that, but yeah, I had a lot of fun here with people that I've met from all over the world: Australia, England, the United States, France. We all just kind of sat and had a good chat and a few drinks, maybe a few too many, but that was the end of it. And there's day 7, 8, 9. And I hope you enjoyed it, and there'll be more to come.